Hi everyone, and welcome to the first week of our Celestial Beauty Sewalong. So today we are going to start preparing our pieces ready to stitch together. So my name is Teresa and I'm from Sewn Together, based in Brisbane, Australia, and we are using the gorgeous Celestial Beauty pack from Epiflex. So it's time to start preparing our pieces. So I'm just going to swap the camera angles over so we can see a little closer, and let's get started. So just a quick rundown of our supplies that we're going to be using today. So we've got our Celestial Beauty pack from Epiflex. So this has our diamond templates and also our curved triangles that go around the outside. There's enough in this pack to create 9 circles. So we've got quite a lot we can do before we have to start taking our pieces away out of the back. And of course they are reusable, so we can make as many blocks or as few blocks as you would like for this project. The next thing, of course, you're going to need is some fabric. So I am using a 10-inch stacker pack today. So some of these I have got set aside and they're going to be my background fabrics, similar to this one. So I'm going to have a scrappy background, and the remainder I'm going to use for my star points, and I've gone ahead and cut a little stash of star points to get them all stitched together. The other thing that you could use with your fabric is you could certainly use scrap fabrics for both your background and also your star points. I think what you'll find is that if you use one cohesive fabric for the curved triangles, that you'll find that what will happen is it will actually tone down your fabrics for you, and it will add a sense of cohesiveness for you. So I'm actually just using a white Kona fabric, so a yarn dyed solid, and the white matches beautifully with all of the fabrics in this range, which is called Strawberry Honey, which is just so cute. So let's go into that a little bit more detail. Okay, the other things that you're going to need is scissors or a rotary cutter and small ruler, a glue pen, some sort of marking tool that you can see the shape on the back of your fabric for easy cutting, your template shapes, which I have taken out of the bag and sorted and just popped in, and then a little bit later on during our sew-alongs you're going to need a needle and thread, but I'll talk about that in a later date. So let me just move these out of the way. So for our background fabrics, what I've done is I've actually set aside 25 fabrics out of the 42 in my layer cake, or my 10-inch stacker. It's not a layer cake because it's from Riley Blake. So I've set aside 25 different fabrics in a range of colors. Oh, there's 2 the same. That's fine. For my backgrounds. Now that means that I can either do a 5x5 block quilt, or I can do it 4x6, depending on what layout I choose to do at a later stage. So that still gives me a huge variety of fabrics to cut my diamond shapes from, and because they're all from the same layer cake, same stacker pack, the fabrics are all coordinated. So this has a bit of advantage to us in that we don't have to go looking for fabrics that are going to coordinate together. All of the fabrics in the stacker pack are generally from the same range, and so that we know that they're all going to coordinate together, we can just grab our pack of fabrics, grab our Epiflex kit, and away we go. So we don't need to, we can take that stress away from choosing fabrics. But if it's something you're comfortable doing, you are welcome to choose your fabrics if you would like. And as well, this would be a great project to do, just and do a deep dive into your scrap basket. So let me put those aside for the moment. We'll see those a little bit later. That's my background fabrics. And what I've got here is I have got my fabrics that I am cutting for my diamond points. And I have gone ahead and I have already cut quite a few of these. And I think I'm probably going to get a lot more than 25 blocks out of it. So what I may do is, depending on how far I get and how big I want the finished project to be, what I might do is I might actually intersperse with some extra plain fabrics for the background, or I may have a look around and see if I can buy some coordinates. So I'll pop those aside. But what I want to do is just give you a little rough guide on how we are going to prepare our fabrics and what to look for. So this is one of our diamond fabrics. So I'm just going to take 3 of our diamond templates. Okay. And if I measure our diamond template on my little ruler, on my mat here, and it's pretty hard to see because they are transparent, it measures from one side to the other just a tiny little bit under 1.5 inches. So if I cut a 2-inch strip from my fabric, I know that I'm going to have slightly more than a 1/4 inch seam allowance, which means that I will get 5 strips out of the 10-inch square. So, and I can tell you that we will get 3 out of each strip. We'll get 3 diamonds. So you will get 15 star points out of each 10-inch square of fabric. So if you're looking at using other fabrics, or you've got some 10-inch squares of fabric already left, I can tell you you'll get 15 star points out of 1 square. And we use 8 star points per diamond, per block. So what I'm going to do is, to make my life easier, I'm actually going to just fold this in half, and I am going to trim off a 2-inch strip. And I love this little ruler. It's 6.5 by 2.5 inches. I've hidden my rocher cutter under there. Okay, I'm going to put that aside. Now, if I pop my diamond shapes on here, I'm going to pop one right in the middle. You can easily see that I've got about a 1/2 inch gap in between my diamond shapes. Now I'm hoping you can see them. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to draw around them with a pen so that you can see where they are on the fabric. Let's get this pen working. There we go. So this is a friction pen. I never ever use these for the front of my fabric, but for you to be able to see them on here, some little markings, so you can see the shapes at least, just so you can see. I love these Epiflex templates because they're great and they're transparent, but they're not really that good to see under the camera. So I'm just going to, I'm hoping that those little extra registration marks around the outside of my templates may show you where I've got them laying. There we go. So I'm hoping you can see those markings under the camera. There we go. Now, once we line these up, I've got my nice generous 1/2 inch in between my templates here and here. But what we notice is that when we take our 1/4 inch seam allowance off this end and this end, that we're actually left with a flat point on this corner, but from the edge of the template to the edge of our fabric, we've still got our 1/4 inch seam allowance. So that's quite okay. So I'm going to trim off my triangle edge. Going to pop my template down in the center. There's one. to cut my second. Now, if you would like to put a little dot of glue in place, just so your template doesn't move while you're cutting, go right ahead. It just needs a tiny little dot. And again, there we go. So you can see that our template actually fits on our strip really well, but we don't have any sharp point on this end, and that's fine because we do still have more than 1/4 inch from the edge of the template to the edge of our fabric. So that's what we need. So we are going to continue cutting those diamond shapes. You can cut as many or as few as you choose. You will need at least 8 to start with. The other thing that we are going to need is we are going to need our curved triangles. So I actually have found that the easiest way to do these is with a pair of scissors. Now I have gone ahead and cut my fabrics with what I thought I remembered them to be 2 inches, but they actually need to be 2.5 inches. So I am going to pop and get a couple of 2.5 inch square strips, and we will keep going preparing our blocks. Okay, so the old adage of measure once, cut once, or measure twice, cut once, also applies to don't trust your memory for the size of the strip that you need. Measure it first. So this is our little curved triangle that we're going to be using. Now, what I've found with this, the easiest way to do it is actually to cut some 2.5 inch squares from my fabric. Now, from a regular 40 or 42 inch strip of fabric, you will get about 20 squares. So you need 8 per block. So out of each 2.5 inch strip, you'll get 2.5 inch blocks, 2.5 blocks. So I am going to pop those 2 squares, one on top of the other. I'm going to pop my template on top so that I have got a 1/4 inch seam allowance on the left, 1/4 inch on the bottom, and my curved side is on the right hand side. Now, of course, I'm doing this because I'm left-handed, so the right-handers amongst you may do this in another direction. And I am going to trace that curve with my friction pen or with my Sewline pen, with my, this is a Sewline Trio, it's got 3 different colors in it. So I'm going to trace the edge of that template, and then using my scissors, I am going to just trim this excess fabric away, making sure I leave around about a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So it can be a little, don't go too much more, but don't cut it back too much either. So you can do that for a few blocks. I'm going to pop that on again. There it is. This time I'll mark it with the duo. So this actually, I've got it set on the graphite pen. Okay, so we only just need that curve to know our basic shape. Cut it with my seam allowance on, and we've got them ready to go. Now, the reason that we like to have a straight edge, or we have our straight edges with the grain of our fabric, means that this curved edge is actually as close to the bias as we can get it with a curve. Any curved edges will actually fold over easier, and then we've got straight points on the outside as well. But that curve is a lot easier if we've got it on a bias edge or close to a bias than if we had it on a straight grain. So that's a nice simple way of getting those prepared. So for each block you need 8 star points, and you need 8 of our curved triangles. So I'm going to put together some pieces that I would like to put together as a block, and then I'll show you how we glue baste them and get them ready to start stitching. Okay, so I have got my 8 star points and my 8 curved triangles ready to start stitching, and for each of those to start basting, I should say, and for each of those pieces I have got one Epiflex template. So let me just move my star points up to the top. So I like to keep them in kind of an order that I know I'm going to stitch them in. So let's just start with the first one. Now, I am a big fan of glue basting. I know that there are those of you who much prefer to thread baste, and that's perfectly okay. That's what works for you, then that's the perfect solution. For me, I love glue basting. So, just going to pop it over. Just going to put a little dot of glue to hold my template in place. Now, what's really important when we're doing the diamonds is that all of our templates are basted in the same direction. So I always start on the same side, and I work anti-clockwise, but the right-handers amongst you may find that it's easier to work clockwise. So I'm just putting some little tiny dashes of glue on the fabric edge away from the edge of the template. Fold it over our template. Hold your template in place because it's a diamond. We want nice shaped points. Going to just give it a second for the glue to set. Turn it around. Do our next side, just 3 or 4 little dots of glue. And I actually like to use the edge of the glue stick. And we are going to fold it over. And right on cue, the dog starts barking. So just tuck that little tail under there. What we want to have is we want to have a nice firm and nice shaped point. We don't want our fabric bowing out on the points. Because we've got 8 points to sew together, we want them to be relatively neat. So just a few little dots there. And we can just press that there. And fold that last side over. We just need enough glue that it's going to hold our fabric in place until it gets sewn together. If it falls out after it's all sewn together, that's even better still. That's fine. We want it to be easily able to be removed. I am not a big fan of people that put a swipe of glue. A, it uses too much glue, and B, it makes it really hard to get it off afterwards. So that's our first diamond. Going to go with our second. Going to put my template on again. And this is a great in front of the TV project. So just a few little dots of glue on the edge. Now, you don't need to fold your fabric over really, really tight. Just comfortably. We don't want it to be loose. But it doesn't need to be pulled over with any tension. It just needs to be folded over to give us a nice shape for stitching. If there's any little area that doesn't want to glue properly, you can always come back and add an extra little dot of glue if you need to. So I just roll it over. Just a couple of little dots of glue. Just give it a second to set. And you can see that what's happening here is that all our tails for the center are going one direction, and all our tails for the outer edge are going in one direction as well. So what will happen is when we sew these together, our tails will actually nest on the back. Let me find one that's been ironed so that you can see. There we go. So these are a little bit crooked, but what happens is your tails actually spin around in a circle. It's called nesting, and you get a much flatter finish in the center. If you find that you have accidentally glue basted one in the wrong direction, that's fine. Just lift the edges up and glue it so your little tag is facing in the right direction. It'll be fine. Okay, so you're going to continue and you're going to glue baste as many diamonds as you would like to do, or until you run out of templates, whichever comes first. Remembering that you need 8 diamonds per block. So we need 8 of our little curved triangles as well. And again, just a few little dots of glue on the outer edge. It's a good idea to get into the habit of always basting in one direction. So whether you prefer to baste clockwise or anti-clockwise, it's up to you, but I always baste anti-clockwise, and I think that's my left-handedness. So if you're right-handed, you might choose to baste in the other direction. Now, this is the only time that I will baste like this. So what I'm going to do is, away from the edge of my template, about 1/8 of an inch, I am going to ever so lightly smear a little line of glue on my template. And when I say ever so lightly, I mean ever so lightly, okay? So we do not want a glob of glue. It's almost that you can't even see it. Okay? And so what happens is our template now curves beautifully around our bias edge, and we end up with little ruffles of fabric where we have got our excess fabric, which is our seam allowance. So we have little corners that stick out, and that's fine. That's okay. We're going to deal with those when we come to sew our blocks together. So that's step 1, and that's to cut our shapes and to get our pieces basted. So have fun doing that. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact us and we'll get them sorted for you. And then in the next video on the sew along, we will start sewing together. So looking forward to that part. It's always the most fun. So we'll see you then. Bye.